Cold hard truth, guys, you will not make money in production carpentry without a good miter saw setup. Just set up a new miter saw, new wings for a guy that's going to be helping me out, kind of an apprentice. Wanted him to be as productive as possible and set up for success right out of the gate. This is the stand and wing configuration that I went with. I'm going to walk you through it, show you some of the advantages, disadvantages, and why I went with these wings. First thing, whenever I want to set up a guy with a miter saw, I want to make sure he has the tools on the miter saw to set him up accurately and efficiently. I cut a lot of baseboard and a lot of crown trimming new homes. One of the most important things we need is auxiliary fences that are going to be higher than your factory fences. The factory fences that come with a saw only come up to yay high. With these auxiliary fences, they're nice and thin, but it's going to allow you to cut crown and 5 1/4 baseboard vertically and give you that extra height that you need. Now, I've been buying these auxiliary fences from Custom Fabricating Solutions for years for my miter saws. Notice that recently they have these new saws, these new auxiliary fences that are notched out. Got a set here. I gotta say, I don't think I'm gonna prefer these over the fences that go all the way up. The reason being, a lot of times I cut shorter pieces of baseboard and crown, and I like to have this support as far out here as I can. Obviously, with these being notched out, you've got a little bit more room for your saw action to where it's not gonna be hitting. But just wanted to show that, pick your preference. On my personal miter saw that I use, I have some of the material removed up here so that the miter saw doesn't hit like you see right here, but this is a little bit too much for me. So anyways, Custom Fabricating Solutions, whether you get either of these, that's an essential setup on a production miter saw in my opinion. Next thing to talk about, zero clearance insert. So you guys obviously have seen DeWalt sells their own zero clearance insert with their saws. It's not perfectly flat, and obviously it's pretty wide going across here. It's a big safety addition if you install a zero clearance insert like this on your saws. Gives you a very flat, continuous support across here for whenever you're cutting really small pieces, and also the groove is very small. I've cut this in going down straight and 45 in both directions, and that's the width of the groove that you get from the blade there. So those are two really key additions to the actual miter saw itself that I do to any miter saw to set it up for success. Quick plug, Custom Fabricating Solutions also sells these zero clearance inserts. Again, I've bought from them for years. They make great products. These are really reasonably priced. I've purchased a much more expensive cauliflower insert, which is made out of aluminum. It's got its advantages too, but this is a fraction of the price for one of these inserts. So you can get the auxiliary fences or the zero clearance insert, customfabricatingsolutions.com. So let's look at these aluminum wings. These are made by FastCap. They're called their FastCap Best Fence Wings. Fun fact, my very first miter saw setup that I used for production carpentry, my wings were these two FastCap Best Fence wings. Used them for a few years. They worked really well. Ultimately, I ended up building my own custom wings, but they're a fantastic system. You will notice these wings that you see here on this saw are actually longer. Now, the reason I went with longer wings, I wanted to be able to cut casing legs for doors and just have a little bit additional length to use with my stop block. So let me just show you real quick some of the key features. There's a built-in steel tape on here. It's extruded aluminum. You'll see you've got a T-track on the back side here. They also have a version of this that this T-track is built into the surface, so you don't have this lip up here. You can get two different versions on these. Keep in mind, if you do want to order a custom length with longer or shorter tracks, you can do that. You just need to specify that whenever you make your order. Okay, so let's talk about some of the key things to look for in a productive miter saw setup. First thing is continuous support. Whenever you're cutting pieces, you want to have support all the way down. You don't want pieces falling down on the floor because you push them too far or something like that. I hate these miter saw setups where you only have one support block here and one support block a little bit further down. Continuous support just makes life so much nicer. Honestly, I don't think I could hardly even work without continuous support on a miter saw for very long. It would just drive me nuts. So if I want it, I also want my guys to have the same thing. So that's one of the key things, continuous support. Dovetailing with the continuous support, obviously, is the ability to have a stop block going the whole length of your support wings. So here I've got my stop block, and I can move that the whole way down and have full adjustability because of the T-track that's built into the wing. So that's another key thing. We want continuous support, want to be able to use a stop block the whole length of the wing. Now another handy feature is having a built-in tape measure on the wing itself here on the base of the saw. You'll notice as I come down here, this side of the tape measure starts at about a foot. That is important because for me to use my stop block accurately, I had to calibrate the tape measure so that it was a bit further down. You will notice though, whenever we come down here to this tape measure on the left side, I have the tape measure starting at 0. That's really handy, especially let's say I want to mark a piece of mitered casing. I can just line up the inside of my miter here, say I want a 10-inch piece, and then I can just use this tape on the saw and mark 10 inches. That saves movement. I'm not having to pull my tape off of my side or the back of my tool belt. And it's also nice just to be able to reference, oh, I need a piece 20 inches long. Oh, this piece is 32 inches long. It's just a handy thing to have that built in there. Next key thing gotta have as a production carpenter on a miter saw is your crown stop for crown molding. We wanna be able to cut crown in the nested position because that's the best way to do it. We all know it. Anybody who cuts crown on the flat doesn't know what they're talking about. Just kidding. Just wanted to ramp up the comment section a little bit. Feel a little love down there. Anyways, crown stops. Fast Cap makes their own crown stops. These guys right here, they clip onto the bottom of the saw and lock into place like so. So neat little things. You can also use this as a longer material support if you take off this plastic piece up here. What does this allow you to do? It allows you to attach a board to the front of these and then run it across your saw so that you've got continuous support for crown stops. Let me pop this off again. They just pop right into place. I've had those forever. I've barely ever used them. Now, back in the day, whenever I was using these Fast Cap Best Fence wings, I found that I like to use a plywood crown stop going across the saw like so. You'll notice there are holes in this crown stop. That's to be able to bolt this down. You'll see I've got a couple holes drilled in these wings. That was from fastening my crown stop to the wings like so. So that's kind of what I'm envisioning for this setup. I haven't drilled those holes yet, but if we need a crown stop, this is kind of what I'm picturing. The wings do have to move forward sometimes if you're doing a larger crown. Not that big a deal, but that's what we've got here. Crown stop, also a very important feature of a good miter saw setup. Okay, next key consideration, how fast is it to set up and tear down? First off, the way the wings attach onto the saw, it's very quick to pop them on and off, not difficult at all. It's got these brackets here, they kind of lock into place, not a big deal to put the wings on and off at all. The other key thing I think about is how many trips is it going to take me to transport this saw into the job site. And with the size of these wings and the size of the stand and the saw, I figure it's going to take 2 trips. One carrying the saw, and you can probably get the stand and the wings in 1 trip, although it's going to be a pretty heavy trip. Back in the day, I used a Festool Capex with the UG carton wings. That was the ultimate setup for finals. You could have your saw, your stand, and your wings all in one compact footprint that you could actually roll around also. Unfortunately, I wasn't a huge fan of the 10-inch blade on the Capex and the motor issues. We won't get into all that. This is a bigger setup. It's a trade-off. Haven't found a perfect miter saw setup yet, but this isn't too bad. A lot of you guys know, obviously, I've built my own custom miter saw wings that kind of have everything that I want on them. And those are really designed with me in mind, because usually once I set up my miter saw on a custom home, it's sitting there for a month at a time. I do have to go back to jobs and do punch lists and finals sometimes, but for the most part, my focus is being actually on the rough trim stage. For this saw, my helper is going to be doing a lot more finals, baseboard, and shoe molding, so it needs to be a little bit more portable, easy to set up, fast to set up and tear down, and also a little bit smaller size so that he can transport it in his vehicle better. My custom miter saw wings are huge and they're heavy, so this miter saw setup is more of a middle ground for me personally. It can handle the production work being on site in that rough trim stage, but it's also nice to work on for that final trim stage where you're doing a lot of shoe molding and stuff like that. With these Best Fence wings, there's a variety of different mounting options. Unfortunately, for all the options that there are, none of them are really great. But going back a long time, my original setup, I used the DeWalt bracket, and then Festool has their own little blocks that you can add on top of the DeWalt brackets that your wings will mount to. Also, what I really liked as well back in the day, I used the Festool Capex miter saw, which I absolutely love how you can connect wings directly to the side of the saw on the Capex. So this little gadget here is designed to be used with the Capex. It would clip onto the side of your miter saw, and then the wing would attach onto that. That brings me to where we're at present day. Unfortunately, still not a great solution. I've got these expensive mounting brackets underneath here. So here we are spending a bunch of money on miter saw solutions. I'm sure you guys have the same struggle. This is FastCap's, I guess, best thing that they can give us to mount their wings to. Slides into place. It's got tons of adjustability. Each one of these is like at least 80 bucks, if not 90 bucks. So it gets kind of expensive pretty quick. They are highly adjustable though. They are pretty solid. And these just stay on the saw stand all the time. So whenever you collapse it down here, you'll see these two will just stay like so. You can move them back and forth, up and down, all kinds of stuff. Not a great solution, but that's what I'm putting on this saw. Guys, one thing I almost forgot to mention that really annoyed the daylights out of me whenever I purchased these stop blocks was I bought these, set the saw up, I went and I put my wings on, and then I found out that the fences sat higher than the table on the miter saw. What I had to do was add about a 1/4 inch or 5/16 worth of washers right here. I've got their FastCaps adjusted all the way down, and the only way to make these wings work so that they didn't sit higher than the miter saw base was to add that 1/4 inch of washers right here between the miter saw base and the DeWalt brackets. Keep that in mind. I don't know what FastCap was thinking the way they designed this. It's really annoying. That brings us around full circle to what is this miter saw setup actually gonna cost? I was curious just to put everything together and see what it was. I just bought this DWS 780 from Lowe's for 500 bucks. That's a cheaper price than it has been in the past. Usually it's 600. The DeWalt stand, 230 bucks unless you manage to get it for free on one of the sweet deals they have occasionally. The wings, the actual aluminum extruded wings, about 300 bucks. I might have paid a little bit more since I got longer wings. Precision adjustment blocks. These things absolutely kill you. About 90 bucks a piece. You figure 400 bucks for 4 of these blocks with tax. Auxiliary fence, 80 bucks for these guys. Zero clearance insert, 20 bucks. Grand total, $1,530 for this whole miter saw setup. To me, time is money. If I can buy something, get it set up in a relatively short period of time and put it straight into production, that's worth a lot. Whenever I've built my custom wings, it takes a long time, at least a day in the shop to build them. That's money plus the expense of the materials. So all in, this is not too costly. I think it's a decent value overall. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I love talking miter saw setups. This is a fun one. I'm looking forward to seeing how it works in the field. I'll be sure to let you know as we get it kind of dialed in and put it through its paces. But thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, throw me a comment, let me know what you think. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next video.